Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast or the YouTube video, depending on where you're watching this. Hope you're well. This is I actually did this yesterday. This same episode. I mean, it's not scripted, so it's going to be different again today. But no one heard it, so it doesn't matter because the audio got all fucked up. And I just couldn't, in good faith, put it out because it would annoy me. You know, being a musician and all, I'm supposed to be able to get that shit right. But yeah, so there's that. And then yeah, so it's been good. It's been good. Enjoyed doing the live stream yesterday, and then whenever I was literally uploading it to YouTube, and I listened to some of the playback, and it was. You guys might have thought it was okay, you know. You might have, but I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have lived with myself. So there we go. So anyway, listen, I've got a great episode for you today. It's actually jam-packed. Going to be covering the can Yunis. Upwards of 400 bodies have been found at the Can Yunis, outside at a hospital outside Can Yunis in Gaza, and it's absolutely tragic. Clearly, more evidence of Israel's malfeasance and genocidal intent, but we'll get into that. Going to cover a little bit about another massive Ukraine aid bill, along with Israel aid bill and Taiwan aid bill, bizarrely enough, has gone through the American Senate. And we'll be talking a little bit about that and how it's important. The launch of a new political campaign, movement, party thing in Ireland, a far-right organisation. And the reason that this one has particularly sparked my interest is it's called Clan Earn. My local GAA club is called Clan Earn also, and it's annoyed the shit out of me. So these people are horrible monsters. Not my GAA club. The far right idiots. And what else? We're going to talk a little bit about Grace Blakelys' new book, Vulture Capitalism. Going to read a little bit from it. Going to talk, and in it she mentions the issue about Boeing Airlines. Do you know about this? Do you know what's going on with Boeing Airlines? It's fascinating. We'll talk a little bit about it. We'll have a rundown of various things. There's loads of stuff. I'll get loads of stuff, so I need to get into it. And we will do that right now. And as always, please join me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Patreon. Most importantly, Patreon, please. I have one tier, £1 a month. That's it. You're just supporting the project, and I would really appreciate it if you'd slide over there and do that. I upload everything there first, so you guys will get everything first, and yeah. And if you don't lend me your support at Patreon, which is fair enough, please, if you listen, please share. Please help me expand, grow the audience if you think it's worth doing. I would really appreciate that. So let's get to it. So our first story today is the tragic. There it is on screen. By the way, for those of you listening, as always, if you want to watch or see what I'm talking about, a lot of these things I'll be sharing with you are quite often they're videos, so you'll have to head over to YouTube if you want to see them. But whenever I choose them, I do choose them bearing in mind, you know, I might have to describe them, and can they be described for the audio audience, which is my biggest audience. So yeah, so there is that. Yeah, so let's get to it. So as we know, I'll read this. This is from CNN, and I wanted to actually. It's very interesting. This now, CNN up until a matter of weeks or maybe a month ago wouldn't have said anything remotely negative about Israel's conduct in Palestine. Very, very, very much on the pro Zionist train. And then things started to change, or have been changing, right from the very onset of this genocide. And the thing that changed was the American people aren't falling for it. And importantly, equally importantly, is there is an American election coming up in November between, it looks like the two protagonists is going to be Genocide Joe and the orange fella himself, Donald Judas Trump. And you have to bear in mind, whenever you see a narrative shift within the mainstream media, and you have to bear in mind two things. One thing is these people aren't real journalists as you and I think they should be. What they are stenographers for the CIA and for establishment and corporate interests. So when you see a shift in a narrative or an opinion or just a slight change of angle from what you would normally expect, you have to ask yourself why. And in this instance, the reason that CNN is even reporting about this, and they do it in quite a milquetoast way, they don't give it the correct horror that it deserves. They don't frame it in the correct horror that it deserves. Now, you can say, well, their journalists are supposed to be reporting what they see and not opinionizing and not giving an opinion on everything. And that's true. But they do give an opinion when the stuff goes the other way. When it goes against the corporate narrative, they will definitely editorialize and frame things in a way that suits their narrative. So whenever they sort of milk toasty do it this way, it caused me to get a little bit suspicious. So I'll read a little bit from this article, and then I'll show you another thing. A mass grave of more than 300 bodies, it's now up to 400 by the way, has been uncovered at a hospital in southern Gazan city, Khan Yunis. Gaza civil defence workers said following the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the area earlier this month. Colonel Yamin Abdul Suleiman, director of the civil defence in Khan Yunis, told CNN that 35 bodies had been discovered at the Nasser Medical Complex on Tuesday, bringing the total to 310. Some 73 bodies had been discovered on Monday, Suleiman said. Suleiman alleged that some of the bodies had been found with hands and feet tied, and there were signs of field executions. That means one in the back of the head. We do not know if they were buried alive or executed. Most of the bodies are decomposed. Now, so a lot of another thread to this ongoing tragedy is, I've skipped forward in the article here. One man at the scene told CNN that he was yet to find the body of his 21-year-old son who was killed in January. I haven't found him yet. We buried him in a grave over there, but we can't find him. So these people buried their loved ones and then fled, okay, with the intention to go back and then give their loved one a decent burial whenever they were able to do it. But when they did go back, as we know, the invasion of Gaza has been a complete failure and the IDF have had to flee, defeated. When they did go back, their loved ones' bodies weren't there. Another man who said his brother Allah, who was also killed in January, said, I am here today looking for him. I have been coming here to the hospital for the last 2 weeks and trying to find him. Pointing to a fallen palm tree, the man said his brother had been temporarily buried in that spot. I had buried him there on the side, but I can't find him. Now, this is the weird bit. The Israelis have dug up the dead bodies and switched them. They took the DNA tests and misplaced all the dead bodies. The Israeli military told CNN on Tuesday that at the end of February it conducted an operation against Hamas in the Nasser hospital area. And during the operation, about 200 terrorists who were in the hospital were apprehended. Medicines intended for the Israeli hostages were found undelivered and unused, and a great deal of ammunition was confiscated. This activity was done in a targeted manner without harming the hospital, patients, and medical staff. Fuck off. All of that is bullshit. So a Palestinian woman, she said, the Israelis have dug the dead bodies out and switched them. She and her uncle's wife were buried in the same hour. We have found the body of her uncle's wife, but the rest of them we cannot. There are 400 people missing, and the IDF has said they've removed dozens of bodies from Gaza for DNA tests in Israel. Now, why the fuck does Israel want these DNA tests? This is really, really weird. I'm sure there's some sick reason for it, but I can't think of one, and I haven't come across any comment about it beyond, wow, this is fucking mental. Now, I do find this particular... Here's something I bet you didn't know. I think this is true. I'm nearly sure this is true because I've heard this mentioned quite a bit. DNA tests in Israel, if you're in Israel, you're not allowed to take a DNA test. You know these things that you send away for? You do the wee cotton swab inside the cheek, send it off, and then they give you your breakdown in DNA. Mine, obviously, 100% Gale. That's illegal in Israel. And the reason that it's illegal is because they don't want you finding out that you're fucking Polish or Russian. Because most Jewish people in Israel are, most Zionists are, Stefanovich and Brakunsky. That they are not they're not Semitic names. Even Benjamin Netanyahu, his name was changed. His father, or maybe it was his grandfather, I think it was his father, changed his name from something Blakowski or something like that to a more Jewish sounding Netanyahu. It was changed so fake. So there's that. Now check this out. Now look at. I want to show you this head. So the headline on the CNN: more than 300 bodies found in a mass grave at a Gaza hospital. Okay, here is. It's gone away. Pish. It went away. Let me see if I can find it. See if it... no, it's gone. Sorry, I thought I had clicked on the same thing. But it was in The Independent. Whenever I did the podcast yesterday, this was the contrast I was making. So CNN was reporting, there's this massacre happened, or these bodies appear, whatever, as I've just read it to you. But then whenever you clicked on the Independent reporting on the same story, they reported, massacre, or 400, 300 people, dead, in response to Hamas changing the terms of hostage agreement. So they frame it into, they frame it. They don't just say, there's 400 people turned up dead here, and it's very suspicious. The thing about the bodies being moved, the DNA test being very fucking weird, but it's very suspicious, and we'd like to know a bit more about that, and we're going to go and ask, and we're going to dig into this and find out why. They don't do that. They say 400 people dead, but Hamas. You know that thing that we're doing right from day one, Piers Morgan, do you condemn Hamas? Which, no, I fucking don't, by the way, in case you're asking. So, I just wanted to contrast that, to show you that. So here, this is the Al Jazeera, Israel's war on Gaza live. So this is the live update. This is current. This is what is actually happening right now. So Gaza, as of where are we? It's Wednesday the 24th of April, 20 past 4 in the afternoon. Gaza medics continue to unearth bodies in mass graves. at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, with international demands rising for an independent investigation into Israel's raid on the facility. So that's good. Um, Fears for the safety of tens of thousands of civilians in northern Gaza's Beit Lahia. Jesus, I massacred that. Surge as Israeli troops attack the city with extreme force and order Palestinians to immediately flee. So another massacre incoming, no doubt. Israel's army transfers two combat brigades from northern Israel to Gaza for unspecified military operations as concerns grow of an imminent ground invasion of southern Rafah. And the number of dead and wounded is at least 34,000. It's far more than that. There's so many people buried under the rubble that they can't count as a dead body until they're absolutely certain. 34,262 Palestinians have been killed and 77,229 wounded in Israel attacks on Gaza since October the 7th. The death toll in Israel from Hamas's attacks stands at 1,139, with dozens still held captive in Gaza, and they won't be freed because Israel doesn't fucking want them. There was the incident with the three guys escaped. One of them was a pale redhead, and they were going up the hill shouting, "We're Jewish" in Hebrew, and the ADF shot them. That's not a conspiracy. That happened. I read the article in Haaretz. So yeah. So there we go. Here's some headlines. Like literally, this is all breaking news. Hamas releases video of captive held in Gaza. Video features 23-year-old Hirsch Goldberg Pollen. It was nearly 3 minutes long. Biden to sign bill that provides billions to Israel. I'm going to be talking about that next. That money to Israel. Turkey accuses US of double standards over Gaza. Ha! Turkey's one to talk, although they are doing something now. Yeah. Colombia extends deadline to end Gaza war protests by 48 hours. Columbia University. Now, American students, university students, are occupying their campuses in protest of what's going on in Gaza and the American their government's support for it. So Columbia, this is 45 minutes ago. Columbia University has twice extended a deadline for students protesting against Israel's war on Gaza to clear their encampments. And then I just heard just before I came in to do the podcast into the studio that not Stanford, what do you call the one of the other universities in the US, and maybe Stanford actually, has decided that they're allowing their students to vote on whether they're going to divest from the military industrial complex corporations that these or universities invest in. You'd think that wouldn't be a thing, but the military industrial complex and the American education system are very much wrapped up in each other, they depend heavily on each other, and one could say, if one wanted to be conspiratorial, although I don't think it's conspiratorial at all, the reason for the American education system being the way it is, that you have to get yourself into mass debt in order to pass through it. The reason it is the way it is so that you're then ready fodder for these companies, these organizations, to then offer you jobs, research jobs. So I don't know what the number is, but something like 60, it's huge. It's like 60, 70% of all scientists that go qualify as in the sciences all end up doing research for military industrial complex. Maybe 60, 70% is a bit high, but it is a massive number. It's huge. It's up there. It's like it's not less than 50%. In fact, I'm going to stand at 60 to 70%. So if you're leaving university with $250,000 worth of debt, which happens, and then Boeing come along, or Raytheon, or one of these other military-industrial complex and offer you a very well-paid job to research how to murder your fellow human beings. And if you're so inclined, you will do it. So there we go. Can Yunis, horrifying fucking stuff altogether. And yeah, let's do a bit of scene switching here. So yeah, so there we go. It's not going to be the last one that we hear about. In fact, as you just heard there a minute ago, they're getting ready. They're bracing themselves for another attack, and we know that the Rafa thing is going to happen. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. The American Senate has passed a massive aid bill. They call it aid. There's no aid involved. It's just a money laundering scheme. But they passed a massive aid bill, and it's all kind of tied in with that. It's very, very depressing. So let's do that. Let me see, what will we do next? Yeah, we'll do the Ukraine aid. No, before we do the Ukraine aid, let's do gigs. We've got gigs. The boys have got gigs. The Bonnevils have got gigs coming up. So we're going to be playing. You can see on the screen there, the posters are scrolling through. The Kilkenny Roots on the Saturday the 4th and Sunday the 5th of May. Ryan's Bar on the Saturday. Billy Burns on the Sunday, 11 o'clock and 10 o'clock respectively. And those gigs are free in as a part of the festival, so that's kind of cool. So I've heard, a little birdie has told me that that they're expecting these gigs to be very well attended. I've heard they actually know that there's actually people coming from fucking Norway and farther afield to come and see us. As obviously they're going to enjoy the rest of the festival too, but they're going to come and see the boys. So if you want to have a good day out, you should do that. The next one we have is the following weekend on the 11th in Belfast at the Cathedral Quarter Arts Festival. That's a 1 p.m. show in the afternoon, obviously 1 p.m. And under 12s can go for free. So do that. Bring your kiddies along. Let them buy them their first record or buy them their first T-shirt. Bring them to their first rock and roll gig. Wouldn't that be cool? And then after that, I have a solo gig supporting Mandy Bingham and Graham Bingham here at the house. We do a thing called Chuck Hole McGibbon, Music House McGibbon, and we invite people to the house to come and play a gig, and it's very cool. We've had loads of people this year. We've loads of people so far, and every one of them has been a sellout, and it's been a complete success. Absolutely love it. So I would encourage you to go to that. You can go to thebonnevils.co.uk to get tickets for all of those. And then the last gig that I have here up on the screen is Mrs. Rooster Festival in Finland on the 1st of June. We're playing it with our buddies Kettle from Canada. We can't wait to see those. Todd Day-Waite from the US and Pat Reedy from the US as well. So that's on the 1st of June in Finland. I'm assuming that you're not going to go to that. But if you do, it would be great to see you. So there we go. Thebonnevils.co.uk for tickets for all of those. Next thing. I feel like having a bit of a giggle, actually. That last story was a bit depressing. But this next one is kind of tied in with it, so I suppose I should do it. Aye. Okay. Ukraine aid bill. Let's do it. Why is it not? Oh. Oh no, I haven't got it on. I haven't loaded it. Right, here we go. We got this one. We'll use this one. It's okay. No panic. There we go. So, what's all this about? So the US has passed, let me try and get this up on the screen for you. The US has passed another massive tranche of blood-soaked money to go to its allies. So this is an article called I've got another article. Let me see if I can just find it real quick for you. Oh, is that it? Yes. Oh no, TikTok ban. Yeah, so I'm going to do the TikTok thing, by the way, on. Well, I was planning on doing it on Friday, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, listen, it's not. I can't find it just there right now. So, as I told you, I've got a massive fucking show. Got loads of stuff. I'm trying to juggle 50 things here. So this article, bipartisan outrage boils over. This is from Politico. Boils over at threat of Johnson's speakership. So let me give you the rundown. Okay. So in the US, you have a duopoly, much like we have in the UK, and much like until recently with the rise of Sinn Féin we had in Ireland, in the south anyway. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. You have the Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats are supposed to be the left-wingy people, the centrists, the liberals, and the Republicans are meant to be the right-wingy people. Now, I would say the reality is that the Overton window, the window in which we view the political landscape, has shifted so much to the right over the past number of years that both of these parties are right-wing. There is no left-wing in American politics. And there isn't even what I would call a centrist wing in American politics. If you're not proactively and 100% without mitigation at all in favour of universal free healthcare at the point of use for all of your own citizens, especially in the richest country in the world, or one of them, then you're not a left-wingy person. You're not even a centrist. Even liberals here are for that. So in the US, you have one party posing as a left-wing party or centrist party. They wouldn't call themselves left-wing. They get the words socialist and left-wing are so disparaged in American political discourse that they wouldn't even. They don't call themselves left-wing. Even the right-wing call them left-wing as a means of slagging them off. But the reality is they're both right-wing. And quite often, especially recently, especially since the era of Obama and going forward, quite often it's hard to see who is the most right wing and who is the most left wing, and it's actually very interesting as a political experiment, as which all politics is an experiment. It's very interesting to see how this is going to play out and how it gets played out. Where sometimes you expect people who will call themselves a right wing conservative, and they'll say a thing that, like me, as a left wing communist, basically, socialist certainly, agrees with. You know, it's fascinating, and this is one of these instances. So the lady you see on the screen there is a woman called Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's a representative. I don't know what state she's from or what district she's from. There you go. Oh no, no, that's somebody else. It said Texas, sir, but that was someone else. And she's considered to be quite a wingnut, actually. But every now and again, broken clock, right twice a day, and all that sort of stuff. And this is one of these instances. So what's happened is the Republicans, in a bipartisan fashion, that means they've both come together to agree, have decided to put through a package of aid. And it's There's money. I'll explain. Give you more details in the article. There's money going to Ukraine. There's money going to Israel. There's money going to Taiwan, which is the three countries where America is trying to start World War III in. And some uh, commentators and um, professorial educated types are contesting that World War III has actually already started, which is shocking when you think of that. And they've also tied it in with this TikTok ban. So it's really weird. The American system is really weird. They get these packages and they vote these bills through in a package. So you don't just go, I want to go and get the road fixed. Someone else comes along as well. Well, that's going to cost £1 million. Let's have a £5 million package and we'll get the roads fixed and the traffic lights put in. Well, as if they were doing anything that nice or that good. But it's nothing like that. They don't, or sorry, it's, they package everything together, they lump it all in. So you get these massive bills, so these huge $100 billion, boom, outward fucking orgasms of money just fucking flying out to create havoc in the world. And that's what this is. So let's get to it. And this and the reason, sorry, the reason, I'll just explain why the headline there, bipartisan outrage, boils over at the threat to Johnson's speakership. So within the right wing, and I air quotes that right wing Republican Party, I'd say because they're all right wing, the Republican Party, there is a caucus of people called what do they call? Oh, American. Basically, what they're what's called the American First. That's their mantra: is America first. Let's fix America first. And I, for one, as a left wing socialist, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I think it's a great idea. Well, of course, you would want to fix your own country first. So this is a country that doesn't have healthcare, doesn't have free education, infrastructure is crumbling, etc., etc. And here they are throwing nearly $100 billion at wars in other countries. They say they're giving the money to Ukraine. We know this. Mitch McConnell, the senator from Kentucky, I think, he's about to resign because he, at some point last year, it looked like he had a stroke on camera. And that's the other thing's really weird about American politics. It's like a gerontocracy. Everyone just stays in power for fucking half a century, like 50 years. There's so many old people. Like, I mean, and not to disparage old people, not doing that at all, but, Jesus Christ, retire, go and hang out with the grandkids. You'll have a great time. But, so you have the Speaker of the House, and the Speaker of the House is second in line to the presidency. It's not the Vice President, I think that's the way it is. I think it's President, the Speaker, and then the Vice President. And if it's not, it's this the Speaker is not, if he's not second, he's third. I think they're second, but I could be wrong. The Speaker is a guy called Mike Johnson, and he was basically given his seat because they could, whenever that seat was vacated the last time, they couldn't get anybody sort of to do it. They couldn't get anybody with enough votes. And this guy basically lucked into it because he come from a Christian right-wing evangelical background. And the Freedom Caucus, sorry, that's what they're calling themselves, pardon me. So these are the America First people they call the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus basically guaranteed to get enough, they got the votes to get him over the line. But in order to get those votes, certain promises had to be made. And this was one of these, no more money to these stupid fucking wars. They want to secure the border, build that border fence that Donald Trump started. They want the border thing is a big issue for these guys. And so basically he's gone back on all of that. And these guys aren't happy. And the headline, again, the headline's always telling, Bipartisan outrage boils over at the threat to Johnson's speakership. So the Democrats, the lefties, the so-called lefties, not lefties, the so-called lefties, they're now protecting the right-wing Christian fundamentalist Speaker of the House. And the reason that they're protecting him, is because he's now doing things like this bill. You see, this is how this works. Democrats and Republicans alike are forcefully pushing back against an effort to oust Speaker Mike Johnson over his move to bring Ukraine aid to the House floor, predicting there will be bipartisan support to stop a brewing effort to dislodge him from the speakership. Now, what usually happens is the Speaker comes from one party, and that is determined who's entitled to have the speakership based on the previous election results. This time it was the Republicans, although the Democrats have the presidency, they don't have the House, so that goes to a Republican. So Mike Johnson was the guy that they ended up with. But usually what happens is the Democrats will be trying to, get him out to get their own guy in, or to cause, they'll be making things difficult for him. So then what happens is you rely on the people from your own party. So the House is near enough split down the middle, but there's a little caucus of these right-wing Freedom Caucus people. There's like 9 or 10 of them, and they hold the power for the Republican sitting Speaker of the House. Do you understand what I'm saying? And without them, he can't do nothing. But when you've got bipartisan support, their votes become pointless. See what I mean? So let's say, I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say there's 200 on one side and 200 on another, and you've got 10 within your own side that aren't prepared to vote for you. Then you need to convince 10 people from the other side to vote for you if these guys aren't going to do it. And because everything's so sectarian, they don't do that. But here they are doing it purely because they've voted through £100 billion worth of money to the military-industrial complexes of the world. Isn't that amazing? So these people, they would be like, remember when the DUP held the power, basically? They were the controlling vote over Theresa May. Remember that? It's like that, okay? So less than 24 hours after the House passed a $95 billion foreign aid package delivering billions to Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Republican GA, I think that means Georgia, I'm not sure, said on Sunday she is not backing off her plan to try and oust Johnson. She declined to give specifics about timing or how he would be replaced. Mike Johnson's speakership is over. He needs to do the right thing and resign, she said in Fox News. If he doesn't do so, he will be vacated. Yet with Johnson following through on his pledge to bring long-stalled aid to Ukraine to the House floor, Johnson's allies seem confident he will survive. Several Democrats defended Johnson on Sunday, indicating there will be sufficient Democratic... That's my phone. There will be sufficient Democratic support to block Green's efforts. Still, the prospect over yet another fight for the speakership after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy lost his gavel, so that was a big fight there last year. So you see where this, where this goes, how this works. I'm trying to see if I can get the breakdown of the actual. No, and there's something like 60 billion to Ukraine and 18 or 19 billion to Israel, 8 billion to Taiwan, which will all just go towards funding the military-industrial complex. And then there was money for the TikTok ban bill, which was all lumped in with this as well, which is fucking nuts. And again, as I said before, I'm going to be going through the TikTok ban bill in the next episode, the next podcast, to explain better how that works and what that is likely to mean for I think us all. Because if TikTok was down in America, it's a big deal. So there we go. Isn't that amazing? So while um, Israel is causing a genocide in Palestine, the Israelis are causing in Palestine. The Americans are sending them $65 billion worth of more weaponry in order to provoke World War III. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Right, so that's that. So here's the next, our next story. So I said at the start about this new political organisation. Apparently, they're not a political party, but it is an organisation, and they are. This is properly fucking funny and cringe. They are a split from the National Party. This is in the Republic of Ireland now. This is in Irish politics, and the National Party are one of the expressions of the recent phenomenon of right wing sentiment that has reared its head in the Republic of Ireland, chiefly and but not exclusively around the recent influx of refugees, asylum seekers, etc., that have been found their way onto Irish shores. Now, one of the things I will say this. These people, first and foremost, these people are connected. And whenever you see who their allies are, you know that these people have no love of Ireland or the Irish. These people's allies across the water in England and in other places are usually find the Tommy Robinson types and others like that. This is usually who they ally with. We know that they've got connections with loyalists in the north who are clearly no lovers of Ireland or the Irish. We know there's a lot of dark money associated with these people. And that's one of the things that's caused the split. I'm just trying to get something up on screen here. Sorry, I'll just put it in a different way. That's one of the things that's caused the split. That's caused this party. They're not a party, but whatever caused them to come into existence. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here. That'll do. So now what happened was the National Party, the split was caused because this is the fucking truth. This is not a lie. 400,000 euros of gold bullion went missing from a safe, and it was the parties. It's what they've been doing with their money. I mean, so it's a perfectly normal thing to do for a political party, don't you find? To invest your money in. There we go. That's it. Invest your money in gold bullion and keep it stored in a safe in your offices. And 400,000 euros of it went missing, and then that's caused a split. And this organisation has reared up and they're called Clan Earn. And this is what's annoyed me, because Clan Earn's the name of my GAA club here in Lurgan. And so this guy you see on the screen is a guy called Justin Barrett, and people call him Littler, as in Little Hitler, because he's very tiny, and he has a serious Nazi fetish. not a joke. I'm not going to read you. I was thinking about reading the principles. They've got 9 principles. Um, they're very right wing. So here we go. 8. Clonard insists that no law should permit the provision of abortion in Ireland. Uh, Clonard demands a complete reform of the criminal justice system up to and including restoration of the death penalty for particularly heinous crimes. Uh, Opposes unrestricted immigration, placing above all the preservation of national identity and culture as a bedrock of principled patriotism. You see, when you read that, you go, well, that kind of sounds plausible. It sounds like, well, that's what's wrong with that? That's protecting culture and national identity and all the rest. But yeah, that's not what they mean. And I will say this as well. Um, one of the things, one of the tactics, we've seen this played out in England, especially with the rise of UKIP and parties like that. One of the tactics that these people use is they find a genuine grievance within the working class that is it's real, and in this instance, it's the housing crisis. Because what happens is whenever the political elites and the establishment class, whenever they open up a border and allow, so for example, lots of Ukrainians came to Ireland over the course of the past number of years for obvious reasons. And there are lots of immigrants coming from Brazil. Ireland has a good relationship with Brazil and things like that. And there are immigrants coming from various parts of Africa and things like that. Now these waves of immigration are caused by capitalists trying to exploit other people's countries because nobody wants to leave their country. Not in numbers like that. Some people do, but not in numbers like that. And these people are trying to get better lives for themselves. And whenever capitalists allow these asylum seekers or economic migrants or whatever into their countries, it's in order so that they can exploit their labour. And they never provide the basics needed for a dignified expression of life. So they don't give them decent housing. And we know this because the housing market, especially in Dublin, is an absolute fucking shit show. It's a disaster. And often they will put these immigrants into working class communities that are already under pressure. So you're talking about class sizes that have got too many pupils in them. And then they'll be putting in 2 or 3 different people with kids that speak different languages. And then that affects the educations of the working class kids that are already there. Now, these are things that happen, and it's not the immigrants' faults. There's plenty of money to be, if we're going to take these people in, to give them proper housing, but we should be giving our own people proper housing first. That's not an unreasonable thing to say. For someone to go, wait a minute, I can't get somewhere to live, and these council houses have all got people. This guy's from Uganda, this guy's from here, this guy's from there, and I can't get in there. That's not unreasonable. It's not an unreasonable thing to say. It's unreasonable to question someone for saying it. But what happens is that lack of housing is exploited by right-wing idiots like this. And it's also created by the right-wing government that's in place in the UK and in Ireland. So they will not allow the housing market to not be exploited. They want it to be exploited because it creates culture wars. It creates strife within the working class. They want us divided. A working class guy coming from Uganda or somewhere looking for a job is not my enemy, is not the working class's enemy. People like this guy here, he is. Because he will have us divided and fighting among ourselves. The government that hasn't provided the houses in the first instance in order to keep money flowing into their landlord, the landlord class, of which they most likely are themselves. They're our enemy. Do you understand? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm getting at? So this party has reared up, and the only reason that I know that this shit show exists is because of. Now I want to show you this first. I'm going to show you this on screen. This is him. This is a picture of him. Now, for the people that are watching this, you'll see what you're looking at. For the people that aren't watching this, I urge you to go onto the YouTube and watch this video and find this point. Just find this part in the video just to see this picture. This idiot is standing outside the doll with a couple of yards behind him on his mobile phone wearing, guess what, an SS Alamein officer's Nazi replica coat. He's dressed like a fucking Nazi. Right? For real, it's not Photoshop. This is a thing that happened. Now, watch this. This is the launch video of his party. Now, check this out. Have you ever seen anything as bad as that in your life? Now, I'm going to explain this to the people that are, again, listening and not watching. So he's standing at a desk, and he's got two banners either side of him, a tricolour right behind him, and one of those little flags you see diplomats have with the same logo that's on the banners. And the logo is a Celtic knot that, if you squint, looks like a swastika. For real. It's really worth coming to see this video to check this out. And I'm going to play the video. This is a minute 33 of fucking high comedy. By the way, I haven't sped this up. This is his real voice. Yeah, although I am going to play some music under it because I need to entertain myself.
Up on social media because Mr. Reynolds is an idiot. And the problem with Mr. Reynolds being an idiot, as he referred to himself, I had no respect for his intellect. No, I did not. I have never had any respect for Mr. Reynolds' intellect. And you say to yourself, well, if you didn't have any respect for Mr. Reynolds' intellect, why did you make him the deputy leader of the National Party?
So Mr. Reynolds was the deputy leader of the National Party, and this is the guy that he's fallen out with because of the money that's gone missing. You see, the gold bullion. So he's saying that he put him, so he's explaining why he made him the deputy leader. You following?
Precisely because I had no respect for his intellectual ability and therefore thought he was a malleable individual and therefore thought in practical terms that control of the National Party was entirely in my hands and would continue to be entirely in my hands and was entirely safe because James Reynolds was too stupid to do anything about it.
Look at the body language. Look at the way he's moving. Look at the hands, the gestures, the movements. He's clearly mimicking Hitler and Mussolini here. This guy is a psychopath.
I also thought he was too loyal. I mean, we all have friends that aren't very bright and we like them nonetheless. And I will admit a certain affection for Mr. Reynolds over the years that is no longer present. But as for respect for his intellect, the primary purpose of putting Mr. Reynolds in as the deputy leader of the party and as the second member of the national directorate was that he was an idiot. And that he was a malleable idiot. And that in practical terms, I had no intention of creating a national party that was a democratic party. Nor have I the intention of ever creating a movement that is democratic or democratic.
So there we go. What do you think of that, Cat? So, this is Littler Barrett, Justin Barrett, by the way. Littler, we call him. Nazi fascist wannabe. And he's just doing a little tribute act there to some of the nicest people I've ever known about in history. What do you think of my wee song? I love it. It's called Sergio's Magic Dustbin. Put it on there. Right, so we're going to go on to the next thing. And the next thing is... just before we do, let's... This is a James Connolly quote. When we're talking about landlords, and thank you to David for sending me this. David Campbell sent me this. And whenever I was asking them about who these fuckers are, and he sent me this. If you remove the English army tomorrow and hoist the green flag over Dublin Castle, unless you set about the organisation of the Socialist Republic, your efforts will be in vain. England will still rule you. She would rule you through her capitalists, through her landlords, through her financiers, through the whole array of commercial and individualist institutions she has planted in this country and watered with the tears of our mothers and the blood of our martyrs. And there you go. That's how we deal with Littler Barrett and people like him. So, just moving some stuff about here. Bear with me. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Yeah. So, the next article is, it's actually a review. I'm going to tell you something you probably didn't know. And then we're going to read a little bit of a review of this book. This is a book by a woman called Grace Blakeley. She's very, very good. And she wrote a book here called Vulture Capitalism, Corporate Crimes, Backdoor Bailouts, and the Death of Freedom book review. And the reason I want to read it is because she talks about a subject that I'm particularly interested in, and it's Boeing Airline, and what's going on there at the minute. And it's an absolute fucking disaster. So I'll read you a little bit from the book, from the review here. So here we go. Let's hit it. Vulture capitalism demolishes the idea of the free market in the corporate age, but has limitations in its analysis of capitalism and how to challenge it, argues Dominic Alexander. The free market was supposed to liberate us from the looming serfdom of the potentially totalitarian nanny state, according to the neoliberals. However, as Grace Blakeley argues in Vulture Capitalism, there is nothing free about the free market. In reality, actually existing capitalist markets are dominated by powerful corporations, and you don't need to be a scholarly person to see that. Historically, indeed, the punitive importance of free trade in the history of capitalism is highly questionable. Mercantilism, as in the state licensing of monopolies such as the East India Company, was the form capitalism took in the 18th century Britain. The East India Company's colonial domination of India, in effect as state power, allowed for British textile exports to saturate the Indian market, destroying the indigenous craft textile industry and impoverishing Indian artisans, but fueling the profits of British manufacturers. And rather than the abstract principles of market economics bringing about prosperity, this was the political power exercised to engineer wealth for a tiny few at the expense of many millions. So, we'll move on to the bit that is most interesting to me. The whole book is interesting. I have it bought and I will be reading it. Hope maybe with me tomorrow. Now, Boeing, I don't know if you know about this. So Boeing is in big trouble. Boeing is a massive corporation. It is effectively a monopoly corporation, although there are other corporations in its space. So what I say by so how is it a monopoly? Well, there is one other corporation of equivalent size, and that's Airbus. So Airbus is essentially French, Boeing American, and they both exist almost as monopolies. We'll put it this way: if you're flying a commercial airline, the chances are you're on an Airbus or a Boeing. Okay, so what has happened with Boeing? The Boeing used to be a company that was engineer led, so it was run by engineers from top to bottom. The CEO was an engineer, so their philosophy with their business was build build. Sorry, I'm just gonna make a note here. I can't forget to do this. Build it and they will come. Essentially, make it as good as you can. Does damn the expense. We build the best product we can, and that will lead to the profits we need to exist as a corporation. And so it did. So it worked. But then something happened. Boeing merged with another company called McDonnell Douglas. McDonnell Douglas was not an engineer led company, it was a banker led company. And one of the first things that they did, so instead of the engineers winning out to keep control of the company, it was actually the financiers that won out. And one of the first things that they did was they moved the company's headquarters to Detroit. And in the doing so, put them in closer proximity, because these things do matter, to the financiers of America. And then what they do is they then find them. You then find, and if you then find yourself as a business that is now playing that game of stock market buybacks and profit share, stock market uh, dividends. Sorry, dividends. So the executives that run the company, they get their bonuses every few months. One of the things that should happen is an executive that's involved with a company that's on a stock exchange and they're relying on bonuses. They shouldn't be rewarded any of these bonuses for years. A bonus, even after they've left the business, should be 5 years after they've left or 10 years after they've left. And then that way, you know that the decisions that they're making are based on long-term thinking, not short-term thinking, which is what happens now. These companies are only worried about the next 3 months, the next 6 months, because their bonuses are literally directly tied. And then whenever they're operating a monopoly, actually, I won't repeat this because she talks about this in the article or in her book. So you see what happens there. And now, whenever you're talking about something that's essential as an airline, you can't be cutting corners in order to give yourself a nice bonus check at Christmas. But this is exactly what's been happening. So here we go. We'll get into the article. Boeing and the power of monopoly. The first case study demonstrating the hollowness of those mainstream claims is the story of Boeing and its 737 MAX aeroplane, which notoriously suffered 2 fatal crashes in 2018 and 2019, which killed 346 people in total and required the whole fleet to be grounded. Blakelys shows how these disasters stem directly from the nature of contemporary corporate capitalism. Far from the neoliberal free market, ensuring efficiency and best value for consumers, the pursuit of profit through shareholder value, that was the phrase that was escaping me, created an authoritarian management culture which sought to denigrate engineering expertise while pushing a radical cost-cutting agenda. Seeking bigger planes with bigger engines to fly more passengers more cheaply, Boeing avoided the expense of creating and certifying a completely new plane design by changing the existing 737 design until the airframe was dynamically unstable. The software bodge to get around this issue resulted in the world's first self-hijacking plane. So what happened was Boeing, in order to try and squeeze more people into the already existing 737, they essentially moved the wings forward. What that did was it caused the plane to, I mean, you don't have to be an engineering genius to figure this one out, its nose to force itself downwards, basically turn itself into a fucking dart. Now, what they did was they created a software patch to counter that. But what they didn't do was tell the fucking pilots. This is not a joke. This is a thing that happened. They didn't tell the pilots. And that's what caused these two planes to crash. Now, I contend this. Those two planes that crashed, I think one of them was in Indonesia and one of them was in Malaya. See if those planes crashed full of white people in America or Europe. The CEO of that company, well, he might be in jail. He should be in jail, but he's not. He actually got paid off a couple of months ago because their stock price is fucking tanking. So he got paid off. He didn't get sacked. He didn't get prosecuted. He didn't find himself in front of committees answering questions, being publicly shamed. He was paid off. They gave him $20 million to go away. It's unbelievable. So this software patch basically turned. They didn't. The wings caused the nose of the plane to dip. The software patch countered that, but they didn't tell the pilots. Now, the reason that they didn't tell them how to. So whenever this thing was happening, the pilots need to know what's going on so they can effectively even counter the software. But the reason that they don't do that is because under American aviation law, if you change, so say you change something like that and you have to retrain everybody, you're effectively creating a new plane. So say you make a new plane, and this is one of the reasons why they wanted to do it cheap. They didn't want to design a new plane. Airbus had designed the new Airbus, and that was putting them out of, that was then ramping up the pressure on Boeing to respond. So instead of designing a new plane, the reason they just did this, they moved the wings forward. But the reason that they didn't want to design a new plane is because you have to then retrain everybody. Everybody from ground crew to cabin crew to the pilots themselves, everybody has to be retrained because this is, like, if you're a pilot of a 737, you can't just go and pilot an Airbus. Well, maybe you can, I don't know, but you need to go through a training process to do that. Okay, legally, that's the way it works. So they didn't want to do that. So they thought they could just do that, move the wings forward, do a software patch, bump, and we're good to go. But they've also done a mad, so we'll get into it a wee bit more here. So here we go, back to the article. Seeking bigger planes with bigger engines to fly more passengers more cheaply, Boeing avoided the expense of creating and certifying, there we go, a completely new plane design by changing the existing 737, oh, I've already read this, the world's first self-hijacking plane. Yeah. Employees had been warning of problems, with one reported as saying, "We will have to die before Boeing will change things." Meanwhile, the company was a great success for the financial markets, and this is what matters. It distributed $24.6 billion of dividends to shareholders, many of which were executives within the company, and bought back $43 billion worth of shares. The free market had not worked as advertised to produce the best, most efficient outcome, unless, of course, that always only meant the greatest possible profits for the capitalists themselves, which it does. Another key element of the neoliberal propaganda is shot to pieces in this story. That is the idea that the neoliberal state does not interfere in the markets. Boeing's disasters should really have destroyed the company, but it had long been an essential part of the USA's military industrial complex, and thus it could not be allowed to fail. And this brings me to another point. Companies and businesses that are too big to fail are a literal threat to your national security, be it in the banking industry or, in this case, the military industrial complex. They're a threat to your national security. And then what you do is, as we all saw what happened in the 2008 financial crash, instead of these banks being, they had to be bailed out at public expense because they were, in quotes, too big to fail. The risk of them letting them fail would have caused more damage than bailing them out. But what you do is you create a culture, a corporate culture, where you're not concerned about whether you run this business poorly or well. In fact, you're actually financially incentivized to run it poorly, knowing full well that the taxpayer is going to bail you out for any mistakes that you make because you are too big to fail. Do you feel me? So, back to the article. During the pandemic, the US passed a stimulus package which included $17 billion worth of loans for businesses deemed critical to national security, one of which Boeing was one. According to the Washington Post, this national security clause was crafted largely for the company's benefit and came on top of nearly $58 billion on loans provided to the wider airline industry, a figure strikingly close to the $60 billion demanded by Boeing executives for the airline industry in March 2020. Boeing's safety problems having continued and its financial losses mount, the company recently announced that it wouldn't release a financial outlook for the year. Despite all this, it seems very unlikely that it will be allowed to fail. So there we go. There's more to that article if you want to read it. It's on counterfire.org. So, isn't that amazing? I bet you didn't know that about Boeing. And if you have an app, you can actually check if you book a flight. All Ryanair flights, all Ryanair planes are Boeings. By the way, but Ryanair are actually very good. They do extra sort of stuff. I don't want to be able to say that about Ryanair, but it is true because they're a bunch of fucking horrible bastards. So there we go. That's Boeing. Now, here's the thing. I had this teed up yesterday, and I did it because yesterday was St. George's Day, and I have all the stuff, so I'm not going. I don't want to not use it because I've got it all loaded into my thing, and it's a big effort, and I'm not going to think. So pretend it's St. George's Day as it was yesterday. So just a couple of videos, and the first one is this. This is an MP called Lee Anderson. Lee Anderson is quite the dude. And this is his post on Twitter. Trigger warning. If you're a Guardian reading, avocado eating, Palestinian flag waving, Eddie Izzard supporting vegan, then this clip is probably not for your consumption. You couldn't write it. Happy St. George's Day. And he put this video up, and I'll explain the video to those of you listening. He's basically showing off his St. George's Cross cufflinks.
Look at these here, look. Flag of St. George. It's St. George's Day today, and this country of ours has been a gift to the world.
No, it hasn't.
The Industrial Revolution. Culture, arts, music, sport, everyone.
Now, I will say this, and I always say this to everybody. They go, any West Brits that I come into contact with when they say, look at what the English built, because we wouldn't have built anything. We wouldn't have all these things, all culture, art, sports, the Industrial Revolution. To be fair, it did start in England, but it was going to start somewhere. No, it doesn't work like that.
Revolution, culture, arts, music, sport.
Culture, arts, music, and sport, I would say all of them are better in Ireland for not having English influence. All Irish sports and all Irish culture and music is at least as good as the English version.
Everywhere you look on this planet, you see some of that. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, William Shakespeare.
Idiot. Lee Anderson got kicked out of the Labour Party, joined the Conservatives, got kicked out of the Conservatives, and now is in the Reform Party, which is just a shit show. Here's some patriots in England yesterday celebrating St. George.
Kicking off.
George's Day.
Here we go.
There you go. Rioting with the
Kicking
cops.
off. Police also in.
There they are, rioting with the cops. Outside Rishi Sunak's house. Downing Street. What a laugh. And I'll just on now going to show you this video. This is a guy called Gordon Dimmock, and he's an English commentator. And I found this on. It's not directly related to St. George's Day, but he's an intelligent, self-reflective Englishman, and I found this on African Hub. You know why I have a particular interest in Africa? Because when I'm watching countries like Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger and others go through the process of decolonialization, and quite often they're trying to avoid a violence happening. There's certain agitators from France and the US and the UK and other places trying to stop these revolutions taking place. And this is Gordon Dimmock's, and he put this up. I follow a Twitter account called African Hub, and this was, you can see here he put it up. We in the UK are going to have to admit what we did to Africa, because we're going to need them soon. We're not self-sustainable like Russia. Your comments on this. This is what whoever owns African Hub Twitter account, that's what they do. They put things up and they go, here you go, what do you think about this? They don't offer any opinion. They just put it out there. And this is Gordon Dimmock. And I found this on George's Day, and I just find it very, the contrast is very interesting between that faux patriot, that silly fucking Weatherspoons patriotism displayed by Lee Anderson, and then here is a proper Englishman thinking about the reality of the situation that the UK and the West is going to be moving, is in the process of moving into. We are in the middle of a massive change.
When this collapse comes, and it's going to come, we in the UK are going to need to have some serious reflection on mistakes that have been made, and especially our foreign policy in history. And we're going to have to rely on these nations that we've been stealing from for years to deal with us, because we need them. We're not like Russia. We're not self-sufficient. Russia has its own oil, its own food, it doesn't have to import anything. It can survive without the world. We, a tiny little island, do not have that luxury. We need to import. That's why we've stolen so much shit in the history. So what happens, do you think, in the next decade as African countries are rising and getting more powerful, and the Western countries that had them under their heel for so long, like the UK where I live, are on the way down and their economies are collapsing, what help do you think we're going to get from those countries that are becoming more powerful? How do you think that the Africans are going to look towards the English with regards to trade deals and buying their uranium off them if we need to? They're not going to look too kindly, are they? Especially if there's absolutely no apologies whatsoever. And as far as I can tell, this country doesn't apologise for jack shit. And the reason it doesn't apologise is because if it apologised for the stuff that it's done, it'd have to start giving back all of the stuff that it's stolen. I've spent hours inside the British Museum. That place is an absolute... It's a treasure trove. It's incredible. And it's nearly all nicked. And we're going to have to, in the UK, in the West, really start looking at our place in the world and really start looking as to whether we really do value the things that we say we do. I saw somebody earlier saying, you know, this is what the West do. They just play pretend. It's no wonder the West now accept a man being a woman if he just identifies as one, because we in the UK have been identifying as a nation that is on the side of law and order, a nation that values free speech as it's censoring everybody, a nation that values freedom of the press and is a shining light and a beacon for freedom of the press throughout the world, whilst it's literally torturing the best journalists the world has ever seen in its capital. We say we are these things. Our government says them all the time. The diplomats are like that. But it's just all hot air. Nothing we do as a country backs up what these people are saying the country is. Nothing. I love my country, and that's what I want my country to turn into, to be. I think it's the most patriotic thing a person can do. But when I talk about these things, people call me a Putin puppet. They've been propagandized to such a degree. They don't know their allies when they meet them.
Isn't that an amazing point?
And we've got some serious apologising to do in this country. To all of these nations that we have stolen from, to all of these nations whose leaders we've helped assassinate and overthrow, all of these coups that we've done around the world in countries just because we didn't like what they did. So we killed them and we overthrew them and we put in a dictator who created a secret service and was just brutal to the people in that country. We didn't care, as long as we carried on getting the oil. We're meant to be a country that cares about these things. It cares about truth and honesty and justice. This country prides itself on the UK justice system. Well, there's no greater injustice in this world right now than the imprisonment of Julian Assange, and we're the ones doing it in the UK. And to all those people in Africa, rise up. I'm in the West and I'm fighting for you. And I tell you, we really are. The people in the country, the people in the UK, the people in this chat in the UK who know the truth, we're on your side. We want our country to be the things that it says it is, and it's clearly not. And I really do wish to see the rise of Africa in my lifetime. I would love to see it. Yep. And we're seeing at the moment the rise of Russia and China. I'd love Africa to go with that as well. But this is not good for the West, especially if we carry...
So there you go. Gordon Dimmick must have a TikTok thing. I must follow him. I don't do TikTok. I've actually got a TikTok page. The podcast has a TikTok, but I just can't be fucked. Just there's too many. I don't even want to do the ones that I do Twitter, obviously, but I don't even want to do them. So what do you think about that? What do you think about what Gordon Dimmock said there? Very interesting, isn't it? It's good to hear. It's good to hear a self-reflecting Englishman, of which there are many, of which I know many. In fact, I would say there's more of them than not. So here's one. This is a good one. You're going to have a laugh now. We're going to finish up the St. George's Day thing. And by the way, yesterday was also St. George's Day. Is also the day that Brian Boru, the last High King of Ireland, died. Was killed in battle. The Battle of Clontarf, I think that was. So that was that yesterday as well. So here you have to check this. Yeah. So this is a little video from a comedian about George's Day. And I'll explain it to you, those of you that are listening. St. George walks into a pub on his feast day. So it's a dude dressed up in a St. George's Cross tabard with the chainmail armour and all that and the belt and everything. And really, and St. Patrick, by the way, it turns out St. Patrick is sitting at the other end of the bar. So check this out. I laughed my ass off.
Oi, Georgie boys here. Who's ready to celebrate my big day? Where is everyone?
I'm sure it'll fill out a little bit later, George.
Cheers, lads. There was a lot more in there for my day, huh?
St. Patrick got that I ain't.
Never laugh the Irish, isn't they?
I could be a laugh. Yeah, I'll get on this one. An Indian fella walks
Whoa, George.
So this is a joke. I slayed a dragon for this country.
Ah, good man, George. You slayed a dragon, did you, huh?
I don't get it. They all hate us. Have we all forgotten about the IRA?
Ah, George. Listen, we're sorry about that. The lads went in a little too heavy there, but we're all friends now. Come on, join me for a drink. We'll have 2 Jaeger bombs.
No, fuck this. That's I'm going home and watch GD News. Freaks.
What's wrong with him? Someone needs to remind him that he's from Turkey.
What do you think of that? I thought that was brilliant. It made me laugh. I love that accent. That southern English, that real sort of Kenty Essexy. All right, George. I love that. It's not London. It's different. It's really funny. That made me laugh. There we go. Now, we're nearly done. I got a good long podcast today, so you're very lucky. I fucked this up yesterday, so I got 2 runs at it. Now, I'm going to play you a couple of videos. Now, this happened. This is a thing that happened. This woman she goes into the middle of a protest in New York, a pro-Palestine protest, and she has a T-shirt on her, and on it she writes Jew and the word Israel. Jew on the front and Israel on the back. She's obviously a Zionist. Okay? Now, she goes into the middle of this protest. It's the biggest self-own in human history. This video will be viewed for millennia to come. I'm absolutely sure of it. Of the biggest fucking idiots. And as a part of this whole, this victim culture that Zionists are, they're doing 2 things. They're trying to equate Judaism with Zionism. I'm going to play a little video about that. And they also are playing the victim. So she goes in expecting to be attacked, and her husband is filming it. And nobody gives a shit. They're not even looking at her. Despite what she's shouting. And somebody played some, well, you'll see it now. So here we go. We'll play the video for you.
Look at my face!
Oh.
I am not afraid. What?
Somebody obviously put the Curb Your Enthusiasm music under it. Ready here. So what's this?
Look at my face. I am not afraid. What?
The dude dancing behind her. Look at the guy dancing. No one gives a fuck. No one gives a shit. Do you want to say that again? I do. Check this out. No. It's so good.
Look at my face.
She's so outraged. I am not afraid. Of what? Of the guy dancing behind you? That is so fucking funny. What an idiot. That just made me fucking laugh so badly. She's an idiot. I tried to get the original version of it without the music, and I couldn't find it. I thought I'd reposted that one myself, but I hadn't. The guys from Due Dissidence did that video with the music on it, and somebody else did a parody, a complete parody of the video. So check it. Oh, no, this isn't it. But I'll play this. So this video is called, and I think this lady speaks for us all. Those of us that go to protests, which I'm sure you do too. And again, it's called No One Cares That You're Jewish. And check this out.
I am so tired of hearing...
Oh, Jesus, I didn't turn the bloody thing on. Sorry.
I am so tired of hearing the term anti-Semitic flying around. Please understand. I need you to gather around. Please understand.
Listen.
Just one thing. No one cares that you're Jewish. Nobody cares what you believe in. Nobody cares if you go to a church or a temple or a mosque. Nobody cares. You know what we care about? Genocide. And you're throwing out the term anti-Semitic so much, it's losing its meaning. Enough already. This isn't about your goddamn religion. Nobody gives a shit. But what I'm having a problem understanding is how a group of people who experience something as horrific as the Holocaust could be okay with a genocide for any reason. And some of the hate that's coming out of you people, you should be ashamed of yourself. No one, I repeat, no one is against you because you're Jewish. We are against your government because they are committing a genocide. So get off the bullshit, stop with the anti-Semitic nonsense, because the last time I checked, Palestinians were Semites. Enough with the bullshit!
Enough with the bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck that you're Jewish. That's not the point. No one cares. No one cares. And that's the said, this is the whole, this conflating Judaism with Zionism. It's not the same thing. The original Zionist movement was a bloody atheist. They were atheists. It was an atheist movement. Actually, play you this just on that. Let me just play you this on that right now. This girl here explains it
I'll
perfectly.
explain it again because people are getting confused. Most Zionists are not Jewish. Most Zionists are not Jews. There are millions and millions and millions more Christian Zionists than there are Jews at all. Never mind Zionist Jews. Millions more. There is a greater number of evangelical Zionists than Jewish Zionists. 82% of white evangelical Christian Protestants believe that the land of Israel was gifted to Jews by God, compared to 40% of American Jews. 40% versus 82%. This is from Pew Research Center population level religious data from 2013. To make this simpler, for every one Jewish Zionist, there are 30 Christian Zionists 30 times as many Christian Zionists. Christian Zionism is the predominant form of Zionism and has been since Zionism emerged as a political identity in the 1870s and 1880s. Pretending that Zionism is a Jewish movement is both incorrect and anti-Semitic. Don't blame us for what the Christian right is doing again. Israel has aligned itself with the evangelical right. Do your reading. Thank you.
Boom. Brilliant. Very good. I love it. I love these wee TikTok things. And this is why they're banning it. I'm going to get into all this with you. I'm going to save all these wee TikToks, by the way, for the next podcast and explain why they're trying to ban TikTok. This is why they're trying to ban TikTok. There's two reasons. There's advertising and there's this. Okay? So, yeah. So there we go. What do you think of that? I think we're fucking done. I got my Twitter favourites here. These are the things that I bookmark on Twitter. I'm going to make this a regular thing. My bookmarks. Breaking. This takes me to the fucking fair. This blows my mind. Breaking from the Politics Video channel. Breaking. New study says 50 years of tax cuts for the rich failed to trickle down. You don't fucking say. Is that a joke? I'm going to play my fucking comedy music under that. Breaking new study says 50 years of tax cuts for the rich failed to trickle down. Wow. What a fucking joke. What a joke of a fucking headline. And this is a part of the trap, the trick. We need to have studies. We need to have our evidence. The evidence is your life. Your life is evidence. You don't need some professorial type to tell you otherwise. Next, in this, Jeffrey Donaldson arrives in court today to face sex charges. This is from RTE. Him and his wife turned up and left, and I haven't read the thing. I don't really want to talk too much about this. I'm not going to talk any more than that. And I never read the charges, but I sort of saw a brief synopsis of them, and it's not good because apparently it can affect the case somehow if too much goes on social media. So I'm just letting you know that happened. Next one here. Breaking NATO vehicles in Moscow. Just not in the way the West imagined it. This is good. I think I'll play my Sergio's Magic Dustbin music under all of these. These are stories I'm just not going to get into too much depth on. So I'll make this a regular thing. This is some Western tank on the back of a truck. It's obviously been captured in a battlefield and getting ready for the 9th of May, which is the Great Patriotic Day. The Russians liberated the world from Nazism because it was the Russians, by the way, not the Allies. The Allies contributed. It was the Russians that made the biggest sacrifice. This next one here, you'll see it on the screen. I'll explain it to you. A Columbia professor, Shay Davide's family is tied to weapons manufacturing, and this professor at Columbia University, where there was a big outpouring of support for Palestine among the students, and now the professors themselves and the faculty are coming out in support, and this guy is stomping his foot like a child having a tantrum, literally like a child having a tantrum. It's very, very funny. And then he went back the next day with cops, and they had revoked his access to the campus. Like his wee swipey card didn't work. A knobhead. Next, George Galloway MP. Galloway goes glazers out on the floor of the Parliament. I urge you to go on to George Galloway's Twitter, YouTube or whatever, and you'll find a video of him where he's actually killing it in Parliament since he's been re-elected as the MP from Rochdale. And I listened to this today, and he goes on about the recent changes with the Premier League and the FA, and he talks about Manchester United, him being a Manchester United fan, etc., etc. So I urge you to go and have a look at that. And there we go. Gaelic Woodlander put this up. This is from yesterday. On this day, the 23rd of April, 1014, Irish High King Brian Boru was killed during the Battle of Clontarf. And yeah. So there we go. Let's call it. We're going to call it. That's us done. That's the podcast done. What do you think? Did you have fun? I'm going to put the gigs thing up on the screen there. I just urge you, you can go to the Bonneville's.co.uk, get tickets for all those gigs and get more information and all the stuff that you need. And if you want to, head over to Patreon. You can lend me your support for £1 a month. It's the only tier I have. And if you don't want to do that, please like, share, and subscribe, and definitely share. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So there we go. That's the podcast. We're done. Let me turn my theme music on. There we go. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this thing on the screen. This is really cool. See if I can. Ooh. Look at the spaceman coming in on the screen. If you're listening to this, you're not going to know what this is. But if you're watching it, you will. Watch me disappear. Ooh. I'm going. Sorry, I'm just messing around. I'm messing with some tech here. I'm just entertaining myself. So listen, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll do another one in a few days. We're going to be talking about the TikTok ban and a few other things, and we're going to get into it. And I'm hoping to have a couple of guests on over the next few episodes. I hope my buddy Darren Matthews, I have to reach out to him, but I hope he's going to jump in with me and get some of his crack. But anyway, there we go. That's me. Thanks everybody. Take care.